in power, whether red or blue. I could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Good evening, everyone. It's time for that thing we do, right? In the middle of the week, grab our cup of coffee, decompress a little bit, talk TEXIT and all things T&M. I'm excited. We're gonna have a great chat tonight. Man, my outfit is all blacked out, right? I mean, this is almost like the outfit that I was wearing when in the intro, right, where it showed me doing that speech. almost, except a color tie because I honestly, if someone accused me of being dressing like Johnny Cash, I wouldn't take it as an insult, right? All right. Hey, look, we're going to go ahead and get kicked off. I want to thank you guys so much for being here tonight for our midweek decompress. For those of you that have not been on one of these before, I am Daniel Miller. I'm president of the Texas Nationalist movement. And this is our late night coffee talk, that time in the middle of the week where I take a break from work, grab yet another cup of coffee. I mean, look, let's not pretend like I haven't been drinking this coffee all day, right? But a decompress. We talk about TEXIT. We talk about what's going on in Texas, the world, and just generally decompress. Plus, I make myself available to everyone for Q&A every single solitary week. We take a break. It's not one of these staged telephone town halls that you have these politicians doing. No, it's just raw, right? So if you would like to drop a question or comment, questions, I can't necessarily respond to all the comments because let's be honest, all these channels that we are streaming on all aggregate in the chat, and it kind of scrolls like a slot machine, right? So Kara's in the other room in there doing production. She's making sure that we get the good questions over here so I can get them answered. But here's how you do it. If you're watching on on our YouTube channel, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. There's your handy cheat sheet. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you can get notified anytime we post a new video or go live. And of course, chat is active tonight. So, drop your questions in there. And, super chat is available. So if you feel like dropping some coinage in there to help us continue to get the word of the good word about Texas independence out, we sure would appreciate it. Or you can go straight to our website and donate. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Additionally, if you're watching on either of the Facebook pages, thank you for that. I love nothing more than sticking it to the man, right? But while you're over there, be sure to like and comment and share. Like, comment, and share. Let's spread the good word. But of course, if you include, the web address texitnow.org or a link to any of our pages on the Texit section, they won't let you do that. As a matter of fact, earlier today, they pulled down a post of mine from the T&M members group with a link to something on the Texit section. They pulled it down. They're again, outrage archaeology, right? We'll be talking a lot about that tonight because we've had a ton of questions. Additionally, if you would like to just submit your question via email, let's say you're watching on Twitter or whatever, you can drop it to that email address that actually is scrolling at the bottom of your screen right now, coffeetalk@thetnm.org. That's coffeetalk@thetnm.org. And I've got the window open over here. We always leave a healthy amount of time for your questions, right? It's just what we do. All right. I tell you what, let's jump right into it. Oh yeah, let's do this. Okay, so I can see some questions already showing up over there. Be sure to drop them in chat, and I've got plenty over here in email, but there's always room for more. All right, so obviously, over the last week, it has been pretty doggone hectic on the TEXIT front, right? Lots of media exposure. It's been pretty doggone phenomenal. Some of it tied to the Facebook lawsuit, which I'll get to here in a moment. But the rest of it is really all about TEXIT. I mean, I don't know if have been following us on social media, probably. But I mean, it's driving the pro-federal statist, neo-Marxist absolutely crazy, right? How much traction the TEXIT issue is getting, how much exposure it's getting. And of course, this is the steady ramp up. We're heading into the legislative session. We want the Texas Independence Referendum Act filed. We want it to get a hearing. We want it passed in both houses. We want a vote on Texas independence in November of 2023. So we got to get loud. We got to get loud. Not just the TNM, but every one of us Everyone who supports TEXIT has got to get really loud, really vocal, really quickly. Again, one of the reasons we're doing battle with Facebook. We've watched as all of the opposition misinformation is getting pummeled out there on Facebook as a platform. You can hate it if you want to. Really and truly, people, please, for the love of Pete, don't send me any emails again telling me, well, you guys just need to get off Facebook. That's not how this works. We have to go where Texans are. Facebook is the most used social media platform for Texans, right? I don't care for it. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it for a lot of reasons, right? I don't like it that they suppress our links. I don't like it, from a technical standpoint. I don't like it from a usability standpoint. I think it is way too complex. It's just too much. I don't like how they toy with the algorithm. There's a lot of reasons not to like it. I don't need anyone sending me emails and filling up my inbox telling me that. I get it. But this is where Texans are, and so this is where we have to go, right? But, I'm seeing people post this misinformation from the opposition, but, we don't have the ability to counter that in comments just by posting a link to the TEXIT section that answers all of that. Right now, what they're going to do is they're going to mess around, and I'm just going to go spin up a separate site. I'm going to copy all the content over, and then I'll just tell you, go use those links, right? Who knows? Maybe I'll do that when I get off of here tonight, right? I'll go pour me 3 or 4 more cups of coffee, and we'll have that thing spun up, But it's not about creating some workaround, right? It's about the principle of it, and the principle of it is that Facebook, who takes taxpayer money, and unfortunately, some of it in subsidies from the state government, right, is putting their thumb on the scales. Oh, man, I'm jumping ahead. I didn't want to hit the Facebook thing first. I wanted to talk about how great it is, all this exposure, right? The article on the story on Fox News, right? That was great. It's happening all over. We got to participate in an event on Saturday, the Texas Scorecard Conservative Leaders Gala, and it was great to see a bunch of legislators and leaders there of grassroots organizations that we've been networking with. And I'm going to tell you, everyone wants to see TEXIT cross the finish line. Everyone we talk to wants to see it happen, right? We've just got to make enough noise to get it there. But this is interesting, right? So let's talk about some of this. Let's talk about some of this exposure, right? This hit just today, right? This will give you some idea. Some of you guys remember Dr. Steve Turley. I was an interview, I think when Steve started doing his behind the paywall kind of interviews, I think I was his first one. But the doc covers the issue that we're talking about. I'm not going to say extensively, but he hits it, and he hits it from a standpoint of being a subject matter expert on the political aspect of this. So imagine my lack of surprise, but excitement when he dropped a video and specifically name check the T&M. So I carved out a little bit. I want to show it to you if you haven't seen it.
Support for the growing movement known as TEXIT, the call for Texas to secede from the United States as its own sovereign nation, has reached new heights. A brand new poll shows that 66% of likely voters, it's nearly 7 in 10, support the idea of holding a referendum to secede from the U.S. Astonishingly, even the likes of Texas Senator Ted Cruz, at the very least, is entertaining the idea. At a recent event at Texas A&M University, Cruz said this, quote, "If Democrats in Washington pack the Supreme Court, if they make D.C. a state, if they federalize elections and massively expand voter fraud, there may come a point where it's hopeless. We're not there yet. And if there comes a point where it's hopeless, then I think we take NASA, we take the military, and we take the oil. In other words, we're out of here. See you later, alligator." Glenn Beck as well has endorsed the measure. Again, if all appears hopeless in D.C., that is. And some are even asking, I wonder what Elon Musk, a relatively new resident of Texas, thinks about TEXIT. Maybe he could even run for president of a newly sovereign nation, as one person speculated. So as you can see, our country is going through a very real moment of upheaval, as it were. And there's a very clear reason as to why. When all is said and done, we are in the midst of a very disruptive paradigm shift in our society, and it's happening both at the theoretical level as well as the practical level. So theoretically, we're moving from an age of ideology, known as the modern age, to an age of identity, a postmodern age. And there's a host of reasons for that. But basically, we're moving away from a one-size-fits-all conception of politics and economy that was held together by ideology, capitalism versus communism, for example. And we're increasingly moving into an age characterized by a profound emphasis on identity. So this is why identity politics is so huge today, both on the left and the right. Practically, we're moving away from what's called mass society, which is where society was organized around centralized, industrialized cities, starting in the 19th century and the 20th century. And we're moving now more towards something called a network society. That's a highly decentralized society because it's organized around networks like the internet. And the combination of these two dynamics in many respects is decentralizing our politics and reawakening the politics of the local. Politics are no longer defined by ideology or urban centers. They're more and more defined by identity. And those, most especially, are identities in the rural and ex-urban areas, or in the hard secessionist case, the Texan sentiments. These dynamics aren't going away anytime soon. Our politics will at some point have to bend towards them, determining at some point which secessionist sentiment, internal or external, will ultimately win in the end.
Wow, thanks to the fine Dr. Turley over there for name checking us. And look, it's what's happening, right? The fact that he's able to look at it and recognize it when the mainstream media won't cover it, like, I don't know, Hunter Biden's laptop, or any number of things like the Twitter files, right? The fact that we're getting exposure because we're forcing the exposure, right? We're bashing down the door, and you hit at the wall, you hit at the wall, you hit at the wall until you see the first crack of light. And once you see daylight, it's glorious. And that's what we're seeing right now. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, what we are seeing is this breakthrough of the moratorium, the conspiracy of silence, whatever you want to call it, over this issue. So, look, it's more important than ever that all of us, we don't sit back on our laurels. We don't sit here and do a first down dance, right? We double down on our efforts, and we get out there and we get the job done. And that means reaching Texas voters, right? That means amplifying the voices. That means taking everyone to the paint that would try to muzzle the TEXIT message. And, you heard Dr. Turley talk about that, and you heard some, if you got to read the article on foxnews.com and some of these others, you can understand now that there is a serious academic look being taken at this, right? That there are some serious players coming to the table over this issue, talking about this issue. And, I think this is a good opportunity to remind everyone that coming up Monday night, right, on the 12th, at 7:00, we're going to be hosting the foremost expert on independence referenda around the world, Dr. Matt Quartrup. He wrote a book called I Want to Break Free. And we're going to have him on here. He is straight out of the UK. He has advised independence movements around the world, and he is going to be advising us. And he is going to be available for you on a webinar Monday night. So if you want more information about that, head over to tnm.me/events. That's tnm.me/events, or you will see the upcoming live stream link on our YouTube channel. But you're going to want to participate in this, right? I talked to the good Doc. Matter of fact, yesterday was his birthday, so happy birthday, Doc. But talk to him today, and he's, we're gonna work through this issue. He's gonna slaughter some of the sacred cows and really, frankly, skewer a lot of the opposition argument about the constitutionality of the issue, about whether or not Texas can make it, and he's going to be looking at it from a much larger perspective than a lot of the opposition looks at. So I'm going to encourage you, head over to tnm.me/events, get your RSVP and get ready for that. You do not want to miss it. It's going going to be phenomenal. Okay, I tell you what. Before I start ripping into Facebook, it's going to be fun, and giving you guys an update on what's happening. I want to let me take some questions. Let's do that first, okay? We'll get some of these out of the queue real quick. All right. Richard says, "Have you tried coffee brand coffee? I promise you won't be disappointed." I don't know what that is, uh, but it's coffee, and I'm cool with that, obviously. Okay, Ryan. Hey, Ryan. I know Ryan. Hey, Ryan. I've been seeing a big uptick in the posts and movement. Nice job. Hey, great job to all of our social media warriors out there and to our comm team that are just absolutely ripping it up. I mean, we're 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 on offense. You don't win games on defense. You win on offense, and so we are reaching as many people as possible. As a matter of fact, for those of you that are already registered supporters, I don't have a nice little graphic for this I can throw up there. But if you are active on social media, we need you. Head over to tnm.me/ORC, right? Yes, that spells orc. Head over to tnm.me/orc. You got to log into the website to access it. But we'd like to invite you to be a part of our online response corps, right? Our social media, our TEXIT digital army, so to speak. And I'm sure someone will post that in chat, that link. I don't have a slide for it. Sorry, guys. All right. Hey, a super chat from Eric Riddle. Eric, thank you very much. Man, we appreciate all of your work. Eric is working hard up there in the Texas Panhandle, helping us organize folks. And I would encourage you, if you are up in that, well, frankly, wherever you are in Texas, connect up with your nearest local group. Eric is working all over the Panhandle, so get plugged in. You want to connect and network with people who are aligned with your goals and your values. And if your goal is Texas independence and your values are freedom, liberty, and independence, then you definitely want to plug into our local groups. Okay. Let's get down to this one. Okay. John says, "Can you explain the legislative council process?" I think you said they blocked the bill a few sessions ago. All right. So this is an interesting one, right? And this is a good question, John. I covered it a little bit when I talked about the bill last night. And what I did was I pointed everyone, if you want to understand the bill process, if you go to the TNM website, if you're a registered user, right, if you have declared your support by going to tnm.me/vote, right, for those of you who don't know where that is, it's right here, right? You can pledge your support at tnm.me/vote. And when you do, you get a login to the website and you get access to a whole bunch of material, tools, things you can download, print out, social media kits. I mean, you get access to tons of stuff, including our own internal social network, right? But in the academy, there's actually a course that we launched about how a bill becomes law. And we talk about the Ledge Council in the course, but let me kind of explain it because John's really onto something. So John mentioned in his question that we had talked about how Ledge Council had kind of shafted us when we tried to file the bill before. Okay. So that rolls back to several sessions back. There's a video that's a bit dated now that's on our YouTube channel that talks about the 3 times that we had come close to getting the Texas Independence Referendum Act filed, right? And that was obviously made prior to when Kyle Biederman filed the bill last session. But one of those times was when State Representative James White tried to file the legislation. And if you don't understand how that process works, I'm just going to encourage you to go take the course. As a matter of fact, if you go to the website now and you have not, you see a pop-up that says, "Hey, pop in your name and your email address and we'll email you over the legislation," right? The draft bill. It also comes with two additional downloads for you, right? One about how to effectively advocate for it. And number two is sort of a cheat sheet, a flow chart of the bill process, right? So just kind of a handy guide for that. That being said, what happens is bills in the Texas legislature. So let's say you're a legislator and you have an idea for a piece of legislation, whatever it is. You will start working on that. You'll craft it. You may even come up with a draft, very much like we did for the Texas Independence Referendum Act. And as a legislator, you could technically go directly file that. But the problem that you run into is the fact that the laws are pretty Byzantine sometimes, right? You might miss something. So what they have is a process where you take your whatever language it is, and it doesn't even have to be dolled up in the format, but you send it over to the Ledge Council, okay, what they call the Texas Legislative Council, but the Ledge Council for short. And what they have over there is a team of law clerks, some law students, maybe some lawyers that work on the Ledge Council. And what they do is they take that idea for a bill and they turn it into a draft. So they put it in the format that is required for legislation. They go through and they run checks on it against, does it affect some other piece of the statute that needs to be addressed? They check it for, does this particular provision run contrary to the Texas Constitution, any provision of it? So they run it through all these checks and they get it into a format for it to officially be filed. Okay. So previously, when I said that the Ledge Council kind of shafted us was when James White tried to file the legislation, and when he tried to file the legislation, Ledge Council actually stripped out the referendum provision. And their comeback to James is that, well, it's not constitutional for us to do that. Well, that was a lie, and it was an excuse. And we pushed back, but there was really at that point not a whole lot that could be done. Right, we were running against the clock. Very simple, so it wound up being changed from a piece of legislation that would have given us a vote on TEXIT to being another fist shaking resolution at Washington, D.C. And we've had enough of those, right? They don't work. So then in this last session, when Kyle filed the bill, we had some back and forth with Ledge Council, and I'm going to tell you, I mean, people are going to think I'm nuts, okay? Particularly people that have worked with Ledge Council before and have had their particular issues. But Ledge Council was extremely helpful. I don't know who we got over there, but they did a phenomenal job for us, working through our initial draft of the Texas Independence Referendum Act and showing us where some of the things that we were asking for, because the initial draft, the one that many of you probably know from the book, called for a lot of things. It was what we would consider a pretty comprehensive piece of legislation. And they were able to show us specifically places in there that if we left that language and filed it, the bill would get bounced out because things like you can't require the governor to, you can't compel the governor to perform a discretionary act that it's discretionary under the Constitution via statute. Right. So one of those things was about the special session. I talked about that last week. So go back and check out that video. But the one thing that they did that we objected to was they changed the referendum language, right? The language that actually goes on the bill. And we were going to correct that via committee substitute. So there are mechanisms. If you get legislation back from Ledge Council and you get it filed, there are methods that you can use to correct that once it gets through the process. And that was our intention. We needed to get it filed because we were running up against the clock, and we were just going to get it changed via committee substitute. We'd already worked it out with Kyle, but alas, it never got a hearing, so it didn't matter. So anyway, that's the saga with the Ledge Council. That's essentially the role that they play. Is they standardize language, they help craft ideas into actual legislation, right? They can, if you're going to change statutes, things of that nature. So anyway, hopefully that got your question answered, John. Thanks for that. All right. Okay. Oh, here we go. Hey, look, there's another super chat from Christina. Christina, thank you very, very much. That is going to be super helpful. our legal expenses are going to start racking up soon, even more so. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But thank you very much for that. All right. Let's take a look at this one. Okay. Cario the Wolf says, when it comes down to it, can we leave with a vote, or the worst outcome? Are we going to have to fight for our freedom? What do you think? Look, it's about the vote, right? And one of the things you're going to hear, specifically, I believe the good Dr. Quartrip is going to address, is this fear mongering about Civil War II, America harder, right? I talk about it in the book. I talk about the impracticalities of it in the book. It's answered ad nauseum on texitnow.org. I talk about it when I'm out giving speeches, probably, depending on what's going on in the world, the question comes up quite often. But at the end of the day, we have to be committed to putting this question to the people of Texas. And it's simple. Article 1, Section 2 says it's a question that's left up to the people, right? And so we want the people to participate in this for a whole lot of reasons, which I'm sure the good doctor would go into, and I don't have time to get into tonight. But we're accusing the federal government of violating our rights. We're accusing politicians here in Texas that stand between us and a TEXIT vote of ignoring Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. So, why would we want to ignore Article 1, Section 2? Right? It doesn't make any sense to abrogate a right to stop people from abrogating our rights. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, I tell you what. Let me get to. Let's talk about the Facebook lawsuit, and then I'll get to some of the questions that have come in via email. A reminder: if you'd like to submit questions for tonight, and you have some comments, be sure. If you're watching on either of the YouTube channels, drop them in chat. We'll get them entered into the queue. If you're watching on any of the Facebook pages, be sure to drop it in the comments. And questions in with a question mark. So be sure that it's phrased in the form of a question, so we know it's a question. And then, of course, you can always drop it in via email send an email to coffeetalk@vtnm.org. That's coffeetalk@vtnm.org. Yeah. All right. This is going to be fun. Yeah, I see some great ones coming in here. All right. So let's talk about the Facebook lawsuit. So many of you may have expected that I would be on here tonight talking about how it went in court this morning, except for one thing. We wound up not going to court this morning. It seems that overnight, Facebook's lawyers, I guess it was night before last, filed to have the case removed from state court, right? This is a state law we're suing under, from state court to federal court. So as it stands right now, it is technically, and we can bring Paul Davis on here to talk about this at some point, but it has been removed to federal court in Beaumont. Oh, the irony! Oh, the irony! It burns, right? But the case has been removed to federal court, and by the time it's over with, I am fairly certain. We've talked about this. I am fairly certain that Facebook is going to try to get it removed to a federal court in California. So that hasn't happened yet. It's still technically here in Beaumont, which ought to be fun, right? At least it's close. I don't have a far drive to go to. But they're going to reset it. So literally, friends, this is it. We filed the suit at the beginning of November, right? We filed it at the beginning of November. This is still the emergency temporary restraining order. We still haven't gotten the first hearing for an emergency temporary restraining order. I mean, it's been a month. It's been a month. I mean, it doesn't seem like that much of an emergency, although the law says otherwise. So this is going to be quite interesting. Now, I would like to say that this was a surprise. It was not. As a matter of fact, our attorney told us that this was very likely to happen, that they would be trying to move this to federal court. And you know what? That's fine. Right is right. And we're going to go fight this thing out as much as we possibly can. And as I said before, we're doing it for you. right? I'm not a big fan of Facebook. But I'm also not a big fan of surrendering the largest social media platform used by Texans to the opposition, especially when we're going to need it. We need this. We have to win this fight now because you play out the scenario, right? We get through the legislative session and we get the TEXIT bill passed, and all of a sudden now the campaign starts, and we've got a vote on the horizon in November 2023. And then all of a sudden now, well, maybe we should have fought that Facebook thing, because now the opposition is spending $100 million propagandizing everyone with Facebook ads and posts, and we have no way to combat it except guerrilla style in the comments of the misinformation, which don't get read by most people. So we have to fight this battle now. You can't go out there and have discussions about complex issues in a comment thread. You can't do it. You want proof? Go look at some of the stuff that's being said on Twitter right now on the things that the organization is posting. Look at what the whack jobs say. Look at how our people respond and try to respond, and give them facts in 280 characters, right? It's just not where you have it. So the ability to post these links to the TEXIT section of the website, get that information out there is enormous. It's huge. We have to go win this. And frankly, it's time it's time that someone put Facebook in its place. I mean, I literally at the beginning of this talked about how they went and pulled one of my posts from one of our groups that simply referenced texitnow.org that was 2 years old. They want to erase the existence of this issue from their platform, and we cannot let them win. We can't do it. We cannot let them win. So if we're going to dominate, right, if we're going to go out there and we're going to prove that we can win this referendum, then the first thing that we do is we go win the digital battlefield, right? We go out there and we beat the tar out of these guys. And when they violate Texas law, which is essentially what we're asserting in this, then we make them pay a wicked price. And I think it's going to be interesting. Now, I haven't talked to our attorney about this, but I think it's going to be interesting to see. Now that it's been removed to federal court, I'm pretty sure that Meta, aka Facebook, is going to argue against the constitutionality of it. And I want to see if our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, is going to jump in here with us and do battle. We know he's already done battle over this issue, over this particular law in court, right? It's already passed through the Fifth Circuit, who said it was constitutional, but stayed the Attorney General's ability to sue on it. But I want to see if the Attorney General's office is going to jump in on this thing, right? Are you going to jump in and defend Texans? Because it's not just about the T&M. It's not just about Daniel Miller. It is about everyone in Texas that wants to have the ability to post a link to texitnow.org. And from our viewpoint, it's us today, but what will it be tomorrow? What will Facebook decide is just beyond the pale tomorrow? What is next? So we go do battle, not just for us, but for all Texans and for the very principle of freedom of speech. Because let's be honest, the moment that Facebook took the first dollar of taxpayer money, then they were bound to respect our rights, right? If they just wanted to have a dippy little platform and didn't want to suck on the government's teat, right, and take our tax money, it would be a different story, right? We might say, you know what? It sucks, but it's their company. They can do with it what they want. But unfortunately for them, they let their greed get in the way. Their ability, they want to make profit off taxpayer money. They fed at the trough of money that you and I pay. And so therefore, they're going to have to suffer with the obligations that come with it. And that says you don't put tape on our mouth, you don't tie our hands, and you don't prevent us from sharing the truth about TEXIT on your platform. Simple as that. You don't get to violate Texas law and get away with it. So we'll keep you posted, waiting to see when that hearing is going to be set. I mean, this is the slowest emergency I have ever seen. the slowest. I mean, it's insanity, pure insanity. But we will keep you posted. But interestingly enough, when you think about why this Facebook lawsuit is going to be so important, think about the Twitter files, right? We talked about, I mentioned those the Twitter files earlier. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically Elon Musk's transparency dump from all the stuff that Twitter did, working hand in hand with the federal government to suppress information about the Hunter Biden laptop, right? The one that had all the incriminating evidence on it, that had all of the goods, right? Where all these intelligence experts came out from the federal government and said, "Oh, it's a disinformation operation." I mean, you get into all that, and that's not what this is about. But interestingly enough, I think the question presents itself is if Twitter pre-Musk held hands with the federal government, and particularly the DNC, and people inside of Twitter took marching orders from them, from the feds, and from the DNC to suppress information they didn't like, then I think the greater question that should come out in this lawsuit is who told Facebook to put their thumb on the scales? Who made the decision at Facebook, or who pressured Facebook to silence TEXIT supporters? I think that story is going to be the most telling in this entire lawsuit process. So stay tuned, my friends. The saga is not over. And I anticipate that it's going to be some phenomenal drama as we get ready to roll into the new year. All right. So let me take a look over here. Okay, let's get to some questions. How about that? All right, here we go. Hey, Jip V. Okay, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. It says last week, it looks like some of this is chopped off, about a fictional show where Texas is an independent nation, Jericho, 2006. Post-nuclear bomb U.S. in the second season, the Republic of Texas helped the good guys out big time. That's right. Our fam were big fans of Jericho, and sure enough, in a post-nuclear America where there was, it's big long. So I'm not going to spoil it for you, but interestingly enough, as the rest of the United States has broken up, they're sitting smack in the middle is the independent Republic of Texas. As a matter of fact, from time to time, we will sneak that image from that TV show. It's a frame from that show where they show the embassy, the independent Republic of Texas embassy, right? And so you'll see it as kind of a bronze looking plaque, but we'll sneak it in as a little Easter egg from time to time. So for those of you who are playing the at-home T&M trivia game, be on the lookout for that one. That's a fun one. But yeah, there's TEXIT's in tons of fiction. Matter of fact, I talk about Jericho in the book. But it's showing up. We had someone tell us on Coffee Talk a few weeks ago that on one of the major series on Amazon right now, I think it's The Peripheral. Actually, in every iteration of the future, Texas is an independent nation. So you see it around quite a lot. All right, let's get to some questions over here via email. Let's find. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Sorry, guys, I couldn't find where to start. If you saw how many unreads are in my inbox, that would totally what just happened there would make sense. Okay, Tom says, how can I, besides donations and my friends, contribute to this movement? It's simple. Let me just put it this way. Everyone knows that it costs. We know that the opposition the establishment is very adept at raising and spending money. I mean, things cost. If you guys knew, for example, the amount of money that we've had to spend on just data or technology to do the things that we do, or outreach, right? The billboard campaigns, the radio ads. I mean, all these things, everything costs, right? So, look, we encourage people, look, $5. If you got $5, help somehow. But here's the thing. If you don't, that's okay. We're not going to beat you up over it. We will never ask anyone to give up your grocery money, right? We don't. Although we have. I can remember one year when things were not so great in the T&M. We had a lot of people, but no one was giving. And Karen and I were paying out of our pocket to keep the lights on in the organization. I mean, we were to the point that our kids had a Dollar Tree Christmas. I mean, that's how that worked out. Business was bad. We had a big downturn in our personal business. We literally lost our largest contract because they were not comfortable doing business with someone out here promoting Texas independence as publicly as we were. So, you take a bit, I took a big hit in my business, right? I take the arrows because that's what I do for you. And we needed to keep, the servers running, and we need to make sure that things stayed on. The phones were working. I mean, everything else. And our kids, they got a Dollar Tree Christmas. You know what? We talk about it to this day. We laugh about it, and they totally understand. It did not hurt them, not one bit, uh, because they understood that sometimes things are bigger than some random tchotchke you get on a holiday. Okay. But that being said, Tom, look, here's just get plugged in, right? It costs absolutely nothing to pledge your support. Go to tnm.me/vote, pledge your support. If you can become a member, do that by going to tnm.me/join. But again, it costs you nothing to volunteer but time, right? There are volunteer opportunities that you can do that do not require you to leave your house. As long as you got a computer and internet connection, there's things you can do to help. And you find that out by first going to tnm.me/volunteer and volunteering. And, the other thing too, if you want to get involved, go to tnm.me/local groups, find a local group and get plugged in and help there, right? There are tons of things that can be done for people to contribute to the movement. Many hands make light work. When we don't have hands to make that work light, we have to pay for things. And if we can't pay for it, then sometimes things don't get done. But there is no cost to participate. We appreciate it if you can contribute or become a member, but that's not what this is about. That's just a means to an end. At the end of the day, all political power is inherent in the people. If you have enough people, then it doesn't matter whatever else you got or don't have. Right? Whatever you have, don't have, doesn't matter, because all political power is inherent in the people. So it's always about the people movement. And look, you don't even have to do it in an organized fashion. If you go to the website, you've registered your support, right? If you've registered your support, you can log into the website, go to the action tab on the menu, and go to outreach. And there are things there you can do. It gives you your QR code that you can share to help us connect with other Texans. There's even a paper flyer that generates specifically with your code on it that you can print out and give to anyone you want. Right? There's tons of ways to help without having to make a donation. Okay. This question is from Renee. Renee asks, when Texas exits, do we lose our U.S. constitutional rights? Are all our U.S. constitutional rights in the Texas Constitution, in particular our freedom of religion, right to bear arms, and free speech, of course, among many others? All right. So I'm going to give you a technical answer, and then I'm going to tell you the real answer. The technical answer is Article 1 of the Texas Constitution is the Texas Bill of Rights. Okay. And that's where you will find rights enumerated. So that's the technical answer. And you'll find all sorts of things in there. But let me just sort of break down your question, because you have to remember they're not U.S. constitutional rights. They're not Texas constitutional rights. They are rights. They are fundamental, inalienable. They just happen to be enumerated in those documents. But whether they're in that document or not doesn't mean that they can be taken away, right? A right is a right. For example, Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution reserves the right of self-government, right? The right to alter, reform, or abolish our government in such manner as we may think expedient as an inalienable right. You will not find an analog for that in the United States Constitution Bill of Rights. They didn't enumerate it. But just because it's not there doesn't mean the right doesn't exist, right? Because rights don't come from government. They don't come from a piece of paper or some magic document, right? That's not where they come from. They come from the Creator. We are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, right? Man, I can't believe it's fun, right? But anyway, the point being that at the end of the day, we can't look at them as U.S. constitutional rights or Texas constitutional rights. You can't even look at them as constitutional rights. You look at them as fundamental, inalienable, God-given rights. And that way, when you understand the source of the rights and who has them, then you realize that no man, no group of men, no piece of paper, no governmental institution should be able to take those rights away. And that's why we fight so hard to ensure that our individual and inalienable rights are upheld, right? From a government that increasingly cares very little for our rights and believe that ultimately they are God and they get to choose which rights we have and which ones we don't have. So, that being said, our rights are our rights. Okay, here we go. Here we go. This one. This Sherwin asks if red counties in New Mexico want to join Texas, can they? When Texas leaves the union. Okay, this is an interesting question. Okay, boy, this is going to be a good one. So you have to look at it from the standpoint of law. Okay, and this is going to get down to really and truly. For those of you who have read my book, you know that I make a very clear distinction between secession and what we're doing with Texas, right? And there are some people that don't get that. They don't agree with it. That's okay. We can have a difference of opinion. But I, in fact, believe that those two things are quite separate. And I believe that probably the last 30 to 40 years of advancement in thought on the relationships of nation states really supports my viewpoint on that. Some people may disagree, and that's fine, right? And you will see people use that word. You will occasionally hear me use that word when I got to get it real kind of basic for everyone, right? When I don't have time to explain nuance. But I don't believe that secession is what we're doing. And fundamentally, here's why. And I talk about this in the book. Secession is your term if you believe that Texas is a wholly incorporated body into the United States, right? That the United States is a monolithic, solitary, unitary nation state in and of itself. We don't believe that. I don't believe it. The framers of the Constitution don't believe it. And frankly, I don't think a whole lot of people believe it either. Okay. So it really strikes to the heart of the argument. Now, what we're doing is technically withdrawing our membership in a political and economic union. Remember, you got to understand the United States of America is a political and economic institution, and it's very different than America. When you talk about America, right, that's a whole other conversation. But that being said, we have to look at, when people talk about, well, when Texas leaves, can it take these other states? That's not how it works. Every state is a sovereign political entity, has to make that decision on their own. Okay. So each state is a sovereign political entity, and that is a decision they have to make. And then what that relationship looks like on the other side of that is entirely up to those states. They get to negotiate treaties for travel, trade, et cetera, because they effectively become at the same level as every other nation state around the world. And if you think that's nuts, then you think the original Declaration of Independence of the 13 colonies is nuts, because that is essentially what they signed. They said that at that moment they were declaring themselves independent, and they were calling themselves states, 13 states, not 13 colonies becoming a state, 13 states on the same level, right, with all the same rights and privileges, all those things, and they call it the state of Great Britain. Okay. So states are sovereign political entities. But what are counties? Well, counties are political subdivisions of the state. They are, and I believe it's even called this in Texas law. Counties here in Texas are administrative subdivisions of the state. Counties were created by the state. So the states created the federal system. The states also internally created administrative subdivisions called counties. And so ultimately, right, and this is probably not going to be the answer that you want to hear, but ultimately, if red counties wanted to, in New Mexico, wanted to secede, because technically that would be a secession because they are wholly incorporated, then that is a matter for them to decide. And then it would ultimately be a matter for a sovereign political body, the Independent Republic of Texas, if we're going to take it from Jericho earlier, to decide whether or not to incorporate those newly free counties. But that is it's a really complex issue. I mean, it's not really complex when you understand what those boundaries on a map mean and what those political entities are and how they came about. Then it all makes perfect sense, right? And that's why a lot of times I'll kind of bristle a bit when people talk about wanting Texas to pop out with a bunch of other states and join another union and all this. It's like, guys, you don't understand how this works. It's not how it works. Every state should get the same vote that we get. And by right, they do, because no state enters the union on an unequal footing, right? There's an equal footing doctrine when states are admitted to the union. So any right that a state has when it enters the union, every state gets, which becomes interesting when you look at things like, I don't know, the Constitution of New York, when it entered the Union, which expressly reserved the right of secession. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting commentary about that. But the bottom line is, once you understand what those entities are, and then you understand the process, then all of a sudden, everything that you have seen around the world with independence in the last 80 years makes total sense. And all the pieces over here and what we're trying to do really fall into place. And then the post exit world makes a lot more sense. So, Sherwin, thank you for that question. Okay, let's take one more really quickly, and then I'll go back over here to chat. Yeah, so David, this is David. He says, "Good evening, Daniel. I noticed just how much fear mongering the Dallas Tribune thrust toward TNM and TEXIT. I viewed an earlier video on YouTube by the Dallas Tribune, and they kept invoking images of the Confederacy and other racist connotations and kept referring to us as extremists. Very racist of them to pull this race card junk, and I'm part black. My wife and I keep spreading the correct info on TEXIT. So, David, first off, let me tell you, thank you for that. We got to go out there and fight the good fight. But look, this is just, it's the tip of the iceberg. I cannot remind everyone enough that the opposition is going to fight but understand this is all they've got. I mean, this is literally it. What they're doing right now is apoplectic as they're telling us two things. Number one, they're telling us that we're over the target, right? You only get flack when you're over the target. They are scared to death. So they are ramping up Project Fear, right? They're getting started kind of early in the game, but they're ramping up Project Fear, and they're going to say all kind of horrible things about us, right? They're going to say so many things that are untrue. They're going to mischaracterize. They're going to lie. They're going to tell half truths and try to let people infer. I mean, that's what they do, right? So understand that this is all ramping up right now because we're winning, right? This is driving them nuts that we're just blowing these guys out of the water. We are on a fast train to TEXIT, okay? And it's driving them nuts. So they're just saying all these things. Now, so that's number one. But number two is, remember, this is all they've got. What you're seeing right now is literally their argument, period. That's their argument. Their argument is a bunch of falsehoods, mischaracterizations, and name calling. And then they fired every bullet in their gun. That's all they've got. So understand that we're on the high ground here. Yeah, it stinks a bit that we got to go out there and we got to work really, really hard to dispel some of this and put some steel in the spine of our countrymen. But the fact of the matter is, that's all the opposition's got. That's it. And we've spent years preparing people to go out and combat this, right? Everything they throw at us, we have a well-researched answer for. Everything, and it's not just the academic or the intellectual argument, the emotional issue, right? I mean, every facet of this, we are ready to go do battle, and they are scared to death, and that's great. So I get when these guys go crazy like this, I get very happy warrior. It makes me excited. I see these things, I can't help but grin from ear to ear, because I know at the end of the day that they're doing it because we're winning, and at the end of the day, it's all that they've got. Let me tell you what, it ain't much. Oh, I love driving those guys mental. I love it. Okay. Let's get through these. Hey, Gary, thank you so much for your super chat. We do appreciate that. Let's see if we can get some more of these. Hang on. Yeah, let's pull some of these. All right. Mike says, will Abbott have to sign the bill if it passes both houses of Texas Congress, or do you think he may veto? Abbott is a political opportunist. And so ultimately, if we get it or when we get it through the legislature, I think the political momentum that it will take to get through both houses of the legislature is that same momentum that will lead Abbott to sign the bill. And he may sign it with reservation, right? He may say, I really don't want to do this, but I'm doing it because I'm going to let the people vote on the issue, knowing that that is probably the middle of the road path for him. So he could veto it. And ultimately, if he did, that would be the end of his political career here in Texas because of the level of support that Texas has. So I don't have a lot of fear about that, but we should be ready just in case. Okay. David says the U.S. is not monolithic by any means. For a lack of a better way of putting it, it's a 50-member club, and like all clubs, members can come and go as they please. That is correct, sir. That is the way the framers looked at it, and that's the way that I think we should all look at it. Okay, Red Dog Ford says, so let's say the state population votes to leave, then what? What's the federal response? It is a shame that question came in late to the game because, I could go through that step by step, but I will tell you, if you would like to see that explored ad nauseum, you can head over to texitnow.org and you can check out. There's a ton of FAQs over there. The answer to that one is spread out across several. But you can find out, what would their response be related to, military bases or, there's tons of information, but go do that. And I talk about it a bit in the book. And ultimately, the bottom line is that we have to mind our P's and Q's and do this the right way so that we can limit their negative options. And we do that by doing it the right way, following the right process. Adhering to our rights, our inalienable rights under Article 1, Section 2, being highly visible, highly public, making sure that this goes to a public vote with plenty of debate ahead of it. There's a ton, but you'll understand the process. Head over to texitnow.org, or you pick up a copy of the book TEXIT, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union, and it talks about it in there. But I appreciate the question. All right, friends, it has been more talk than coffee tonight, but oddly enough, I'm not tired. I'm just getting started. So it is time to bring this puppy to the house. Again, a reminder, Monday night, December the 12th, here at December the 12th at 7 p.m. is going to be the live stream that we have with Dr. Matt Quartrup, who's going to be talking about, you guys are going to love him. I promise. Absolutely promise. A reminder, if you were watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We need all the subscribers we can get. And some people will say, why aren't you on Rumble? Well, we're working on that right now to get back on Rumble. But the good news is that these archive on Rumble when they're done. and you can go there and watch it for playback if you'd like to. A reminder, if you are not already a registered supporter, go ahead and pledge your support. Head over to tnm.me/vote. That is tnm.me/vote. And if you can, join the movement, right? Become a member, tnm.me/join. You can go over there and join. Standard membership is $30 a year. You can, veterans, students have special pricing, senior citizens. But go check it out, tnm.me/join. Become a member if you are not one already. And then, of course, be sure to go volunteer as well. tnm.me/volunteer. And then, of course, join a local group, tnm.me/local groups. Find your nearest local group. Reminder, please donate to our social media censorship lawsuit fund. If you can spare $5, $10, whatever it is, head over to tnm.me/Facebook suit and help with that. Everything donated to that form goes straight to offsetting our legal expenses. All right, my friends, that is it for this week's edition of Coffee Talk. I want to thank you guys so much for, sharing this time with me. I really do appreciate all of you taking the time out of your evening, especially all the banter that goes on in chat and really the questions. But the thing really is what we do when we leave here, right? When we get off of here and we're done with the live stream, what comes next? Well, ultimately, friends, that's up to you. And so I will leave you tonight with the words that I leave you with every week. They are not my words. They are the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.
If you feel you've no real voice, and at the polls there's no good choice, and the best is a lesser evil, just who? And it is time for a real change. Instead of voting more of the same, only one solution restores the power to you. When Texan rights have been impaired, and it's gone on for many years, there's only one way left to correct it. You know Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for TEXIT. July the 4th, we celebrate an exit of the United States from a British Empire that denied them representation. Yeah, and history repeats, they say. Britain's past became their fate when a Brexit vote restored Britain's status as a nation. When the Constitution is ignored, state sovereignty thrown overboard, and all attempts to restore it have been rejected. You know the Texans are the best to decide the future of Texas, so pledge your vote today for Texas.